this is Jenny from Just Being Me, and you're listening to the Learning to Love Yourself podcast, the show that inspires you to put yourself first.
Learning to love yourself on the path to happiness. Learning to love yourself on the path to happiness.
So welcome back to our podcast, and today I'm with the very lovely Sarah Park. And for those of you who cannot see, if you're not on YouTube and you're on Spotify or Apple, I'm going to tell you, Sarah has the most gloriously, enviously purple hair. And I am in hair envy because, How are you doing today, Sarah?
I'm good, thank you. Yes, I'm all about the purple. Anyone who knows me.
That's how they know you, if it's purple, is it?
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Fabulous. So we're here today to talk about your journey to the aha moment of knowing that actually you needed to change something in your life. Would you like to tell us a little bit about your story?
I've been disabled since birth, so I've lived a life of physical limitation, but that's in itself led to lots of different things that have happened in my life. But the main aha moment was actually around quite a difficult time in my life, where I basically got to the point where I knew that the attitude of you only live once really meant something to me. It was during, like I said, a difficult time. So me and my then husband were making the decision to get a divorce. And yeah, it wasn't just about that. As we'd finally made peace with it, I also get a phone call from my mum saying, "Oh, I've got to go for some tests. They think it might be lung cancer."
Wow.
And this was it, like I said, before obviously me and my husband had shared it with anyone that we were thinking about it. So my parents didn't know any of this information or anything. And it kind of it was a really tough time, obviously. And so for me, obviously having to go through all of that and realizing how short life can be, because sadly we did also lose my mum, the following year of finding that information out. And obviously going through the divorce and all of that, it kind of got me to that point where I knew that I needed to start actually living my life, because we don't know what's around the corner. And I'd spent a lifetime of being told I couldn't do things. And so I began to believe them.
So your lifetime of being told you couldn't do things is because of your disability?
Yes, exactly. So I'd spent a life feeling like I was never leading the life that I should be leading, and that I was always less than I could be. And so for me, it was very much that realization that what's the point in living a life if you're not living it the way that you should be living it?
Can I just ask you about what you just said there? The less than was the less than other people believing it should be less than, or you believing, or both?
A bit of both, I think. And I think this is the thing, is that the more you get told you can't do something,
Absolutely.
the more you actually start to believe it yourself.
Mhm.
And, it is that negativity around kind of disability and the assumptions that are made and all of that sort of stuff, that you start believing that you can't be in a well-paid job, or traveling the world, or doing this job, or doing that, or having this life, or, what I mean? And it's very much disability, especially in the media, is you've got one of two people. You've got the kind of the superhuman, amazing, role models, and then you've got the disabled people to be pitied. And I felt like like that was who I fitted into. That was who or people assumed that that's who I
Wow.
is that like person who wasn't ever going to amount to much. You know, if my parents had listened to like medical professionals and stuff, I would have been 3 weeks and then I wouldn't have been here any longer.
Oh.
So the fact that I have kept pushing through people's assumptions of what they expected from me. But like I say, if you get it so often, you start believing it. And I feel like I got stuck in that rut of not knowing how to get out of it. Because I was pushing against other people's opinions as well as my own and my own attitude towards it.
And that's not an easy thing to do, is to push against other people's opinions when it's so forcefully put into you, because this wouldn't have just been about the people that were directly around you. This is about the media. This is about the whole perception of disability, isn't it? That's a big thing that you're pushing against.
Yes, exactly.
And yet, having spent a very lovely evening with you, which is how we met, and we went out to dinner, I absolutely know that you can do anything that you want to do. You just need to be able to decide to do that.
Yeah, and I think this is the thing, and this is where a lot of the shift has come. Because I've always been fiercely independent, and sometimes to my detriment of like my health and stuff. But it's not always just about independence, is it? It's about that strength of confidence to know that you can do it. And I think that's where the shift happened for me, where it wasn't just about kind of being fiercely independent anymore. It was actually a shift in how I looked upon myself and looked at who I was and the confidence in who I could be if I kept moving forwards and pushing forwards.
So how do you see yourself now? If you had to describe yourself, how would you describe yourself?
It's still a work in progress.
Absolutely. Life is a work in progress, isn't it? Life is a work in progress.
But I definitely have much more confidence in my own abilities now. And I'm much more able at, I suppose, challenging when I feel like someone's put a restriction on me, and like looking at the reason why that restriction's been put in place, and like, is it a realistic restriction, or is it just because of what society have said it should be? So I'm much better at recognizing that I know my stuff. I know who I am. I know that I'm capable. And if other people don't see that, that's up to them. It's.
You're thinking from my perspective of being ADHD and the process of how there is this lumping of all the ADHD people are like this. Yes. And actually that's not true. You know, I know a lot of people within the neurodiverse world, and we're all very different, and all our coping mechanisms are very different, and all of our ways of doing things or understanding things differently are all very different. And that's very true for any disability, isn't it, Sarah? You know?
Well, this is it. And I think this is the thing, is that people make assumptions about disability, especially. So one of the things I would say about kind of obviously that topic is I grew up with it just being a physical disability that was ever really dealt with. There was no recognition of there could be other things at play. And like me being diagnosed ADHD at a later stage in life as well, it began to make so much more sense. And I think that's also part of the acceptance of who I am has come as well, because like some of those things that I really struggled with growing up now makes so much more sense. And it wasn't just that I was absolutely rubbish and incapable. And it wasn't because of my physical disability and all of that sort of stuff. I actually had something else going on, and like the realization that with a bit more understanding, I've now been able to add in my own strategies, my own kind of processes, my own acceptance of my own ability has also been part of that process.
Because there's a whole big thing out there in this society, isn't it? In our society, is that actually we should all learn in one particular way. We should all react in one particular way. We should all be able to do certain physical things. And if we step outside of those, that's the place where you become disabled. And for me, I don't know about you, Sarah, but my ADHD doesn't disable me. It means that I need to look at things differently because these systems work in this way. It's not, so being taught at school worked in a particular way. Whereas if it had been known in the days that I was at school anyway, because that seems to be an awful long way away these days, but if it had been known and that ability to be able to, because if I ask a question, people who know their stuff can re-explain it in a way that I get it.
Yep.
So it's not that difficult. It's not that difficult.
No. And I think this is the thing, isn't it? Is that if you think back to like childhood experiences, when I was at school, it was very much about the naughty schoolboy was the person who'd get diagnosed with ADHD. There was such a lack of understanding that as girls, as women, we do present differently in a lot of ways with regards to ADHD. And it isn't just the hyperactive naughty schoolboy kind of persona that was always kind of what ADHD was described as.
And that's really interesting because actually for me, it isn't the external. For me, it's the internal. For me, it's my brain is so active, bouncing off the walls. You know, my brain is either going at 100 miles an hour or stopped.
Yes.
And my learning strategy is to slow that down. But you see, here's the thing, and I don't know if this is true for you too, is that I just thought that's how everybody's brain worked. I didn't know any different. So therefore, if you get told you're stupid enough times, you start believing that you're stupid.
Yeah.
So even getting my criminology degree, I'm still sitting there thinking, well, I'm stupid because I'd still have to ask all these questions to be able to get the answers that I need to understand. And that's where learning needs to be a much bigger realm. It needs to be there needs to be much more understanding and much more capability for the teachers to be able to explain in different ways and know how you react. And for your self-care and your self-love side of things, feeling noticed, feeling seen, feeling heard.
Exactly. And that's what I'm all about is obviously not just myself feeling like I'm valued and that I've been heard and that I'm supported, but that actually making other disabled people feel like they have their own voice to advocate for their own needs and their own abilities and stuff like that. That's all part of who I am because I spent so many years not feeling that empowered and not feeling able to actually like have that voice that I needed. And it's one of those things, isn't it? That everybody needs to feel like they can be honest and have their voice heard.
Yeah, but it's also really important. So having your voice heard, but it's also really important to have the right people to have your voice heard by.
Yes.
Because you can say things and people don't necessarily listen to you. So it's absolutely about finding the right people to be around, isn't it? Because that's so important for our self-care to have the right people around us. Because if we have the wrong people around us, then it all just gets worse. Then we are just hearing that you're stupid, because they're not our people. They're not our people. They're not the people that understand what's happening.
Well, this is it. And if we go back to the ADHD diagnosis, I hadn't even considered it as an option because I didn't know about it. And it wasn't until I was in with my people who were talking about being diagnosed as later that I actually started to understand it and started to understand myself a little bit more because I was seeing me in these people. And like, that has all been part of my journey for empowerment as well, because like, I've found myself in amazing communities that are really positive about my ability, and they are the ones that have helped push me through that barrier. And like, I've had people challenge me who've never challenged, like, people have never challenged me like this in the like past, challenge me to like the why not kind of attitude of why can't you do it? What's stopping you? And I would be like, well, there's a physical step up there or whatever. And they were like, well, we can run up there. You know, that kind of attitude of, you know, having others around me who were able to see outside the box and realize that there's more to me than the physical barriers of steps and like ramps and lifts and goodness knows, you know, all of the physical stuff. Like if I turn around and say, oh, I can't get up there because of the steps or whatever, people be like, oh yeah, okay, we understand that. Oh well, never mind. And that would be their reaction to me saying something like that. And so now I'm in a community who actually like go, why not? And I'm like, oh, okay. That's a bit different.
So that's challenging your mind to go, okay, what can I do?
Exactly.
If we move these physical blocks, what can I do?
Exactly.
And that sounds like what you're telling me is that the only thing that was stopping that were the people that you were around you and yourself.
Yeah. Well, this is it. Is that it is a mixture of things, isn't it? It is about like who you listen to.
Mm-hmm.
But it is then, are you listening to yourself as well? Are you repeating what you've already heard? And yes, I was, you know, because that's all I knew. Like I got so used to people seeing the physical blocks to my ability that actually having people around me who pushed me forwards, who wanted me to do well, who actually saw the good that I could do. This is quite a new thing for me.
And, you know, I'm feeling your energy and your energy going, yeah, this is exciting. And this is what I want to be doing. And that's how we should be living life, isn't it? So, you know, instead of actually seeing the blocks, you know, and I fully, as a self-belief expert, I totally get why people get into a place of believing that they can't do all of these things. But, you know, the reality with that's about, as you have shown, changing your core beliefs to believe something different. And there's no reason why you can't change those core beliefs. You might need some support with it, but there's no reason why you can't.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you do that and then get yourself into the right communities, which is as simple as starting to listen to more positive people, you know, listen to more positive words going in so that your brain is hearing more positivity.
Yes.
And it starts from there, really, doesn't it, Sarah? It starts from you deciding, I want a positive life. It starts from you making that decision. And then after that, working out how you're going to do it.
Exactly. And it's picking yourself up as well. So like, I'll still have like a lot of negative talk, and I'll still get myself into like negative spirals and stuff like that. But I'm so much more likely to get myself out now because I have those tools to be able to say, let's switch this about. Let's actually reframe this. Let's think about it a different way.
And it isn't an overnight thing, is it?
No.
I mean, I have a saying, small, stable steps, SSS, small, stable steps. Because if you try and run
Yeah.
You're going to fall over, and then your brain's going to go to you, see, I told you couldn't do that, because now we've just proved that you can't. And then you've got to fight your brain again, because your brain is basically like a computer and you train it. And if that is that there's a whole load of negative self-talk, or there's a whole load of negative external talk,
Yes.
your brain gets trained into that. So small, stable steps. Oh, and that's why it's a journey. It's why it always will be a journey. It will
I think
always.
that's one of the things that I really struggled with, like for a long time, was I used to beat myself up about things. Like, so if something didn't work, if I and again, I think this is very much an ADHD kind of thing going on here, where I would get really, really into something for maybe a week or 2 weeks. The system would work, and I'd be like, wow, this is amazing. And then I'd have a blip. And then that's when the cycle of negativity would kind of jump in, and I would just kind of sack it off as a really bad kind of job. But now I don't do that. I say I don't do it. There are moments where I may still do that. But what
The journey.
exactly what will happen now is if I put a system in place and it's going really well for 2 weeks, and then I have a day where it doesn't go so well, I'm much better at putting my bouts of back and saying, it's just a day, it's fine, it's okay, let's do it again tomorrow, it's fine. And then you start again. Whereas before it'd be very much 2 weeks. Fail, that would be it. Oh, I'm rubbish, I can't do this, blah, 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 blah. All the negativity coming in. Whereas now I'm much more like, oh, actually, it was just a day, it's fine.
And the really interesting thing is when you look at all the signs and the symptoms of ADHD, and then you look at all the signs and symptoms of trauma, of traumatic events, they're very, very similar. And it'll be interesting to see what the research brings out along the line. But just because of the fact that you're experiencing one particular thing that looks like ADHD, that could also be affected by having a traumatic event in your life. And most of us have had some sort of traumatic event. That some will be larger than the others. So it's really interesting. But then they're now showing brain scans that are showing up differently. So if you look at an ADHD brain and a trauma-based brain, they are showing up differently as to ones that haven't experienced that.
Okay.
So it just shows that the brain can rewire itself.
Yes.
Because if a brain is showing up different after a traumatic event, then it's because it's rewired, because it wasn't showing that before. So it's really interesting how the brain can be rewired. And, the rewiring can be done by you.
Yeah.
And you'll need support, but, to do that, which, in my world, that's, absolutely comes talk to me. We can get that sorted. But it can happen. You can change your life. You can change your life. And if you do the changing, then it's to your standards, isn't it?
Yeah. And I must admit, funnily enough, I worked for a charity for 15 years, working with people who'd had an acquired brain injury. So they'd had an injury on their brain. And we talked all the time about rewiring the brain and this, that, and the other. And I could do it for all of them. But looking back, I wasn't doing it for myself. I wasn't kind of rewiring my thoughts and my brain and the way that I did things. Yet I was quite happy going around doing it for everybody else. And that's what I continue to do now as a self-employed.
There's a I'm not even sure that it's research, but there is an assimilation between the fact that the minute somebody with ADHD is trying to do something for themselves, because there is emotion attached to it, it's really, really hard. I can fill forms in all day, every day for other people. I could sit here and write your marketing strategy all day. I've just been talking to a client and she's a florist. So therefore, it's a completely different thing that I'm sitting there going, oh, you could do this, you could do that. What about this for a bit of content? How about this? But for me, I sit there and I go, okay, how am I supposed to get that from my brain into there? And because there's an emotion attached to it. I need to get it right. I'm telling people about important stuff and, I need to get it right. So if it's for me, it's really hard for me to do. If I'm doing it for somebody else, it's not. So, one of the strategies for me that works for me is to have somebody else sitting in the room whilst I talk this through. And that's where having somebody else around me helps. And
Yes.
it's accepting that it's okay to ask for help.
Definitely. And that's a big kind of part of what I do is the accountability and the body doubling and all of that sort of stuff as well. But
Sarah, tell us what you do, because we've talked about who you are, but what you do.
Okay, so I am a disability empowerment consultant, and it's all about empowering disabled people, whether you're employed or unemployed or self-employed, doesn't matter, with your digital tech strategies. Primarily your digital tech strategies. But the idea is it's the overall holistic approach of looking at what it is you want to be achieving and how we can best kind of get you as independent and as confident as you can be. And a key element of that is using things like the digital tech strategies and helping you to receive support that you need through things like access to work. I also support other people with form filling, accountability, body doubling, all of those sorts of things. For disabled entrepreneurs in particular, we need to be able to do things a bit differently. And so the support that I offer isn't necessarily your bog standard business consultation, coaching kind of support. It's more individualized, more specific to people's needs with regards to disability. And obviously, because I've got the lived experience myself, but also the years worth of experience working with other individuals, primarily in kind of brain injury environments and stuff like that, it obviously allows me to kind of have a wealth of knowledge using tech as a really important part of your strategy to make your life easier and more independent, basically.
Well, that's just fabulous, isn't it? And that is the thing, because, you can go to big organizations and they give you an overarching, but what you actually need is something that means something to you. Because I know that some of the strategies that I've been recommended for ADHD people don't actually work for me, have no relevance to me, right, because that's just not the part of me that needs supporting. It's another part of me that needs supporting. So recognizing and appreciating the individualized side of what you're doing is really important, isn't it?
Exactly, because this is the thing. So I've obviously over the years tried numerous strategies myself. I have recommended numerous strategies to other people. I have seen people thrive through some of the strategies, but I've also seen people not thriving through those strategies. So it's recognizing that I've got a variety of different experiences that allows me. So I'm like that person who, I'm the problem solver. So I'll be able to work out what it is you need, and I'll be able to see what I think would work for you. And if it doesn't work, I can be like sometimes it gives me the permission to go down that rabbit hole and actually do some research, because I try to avoid doing it in my own work, because otherwise I waste too much time.
Yeah. Oh, so that's great, isn't it? When you've got a job, and I have this job, I am just so lucky, whereby what you do is the thing that lights you up. Yay! Well,
this is it. Exactly. And this is the thing. And when you see someone achieving, like I think back to other experiences of clients that I worked with who, like, they were high functioning human beings who, like, had jobs and had families and like high paying jobs and really stressful jobs. And then they fell ill or whatever. And they felt like they didn't belong in their family. They weren't like the head of like the matriarch of like the family or anything like that anymore. And so little strategies that I could put back into place for them, things like using Amazon Echo and smart tech to help with reminders and adding routines into your day and all of those sorts of things, and being able to add to a voice control, a shopping list, and all of those things. They may seem like really tiny things individually, but actually for someone who has lost everything in their lives, to be given back some of that control and some of that independence is massive for them.
And very beautifully brings us right back to what we were saying right at the beginning of our individual need to be seen and heard. And that's just a really important thing for each and every one of us, isn't it? To be seen and heard for who we are.
Yeah.
Sarah, thank you so much for coming to talk to me today. Been a real revelation. We will put all of the details of where you can get in contact with Sarah down below, and we will catch up again soon, Sarah. Thank you so much.
Are you feeling stuck? Do you want to be able to create a better conversation with yourself, but just don't know where to start? I offer a free 20-minute session to see where you want to be and how to get you there. Just click on the link below. Remember, it's free. Book your space. It could change your life. Thanks for listening today. If you'd like to know more, you can find all the links down below. Oh, and don't forget to press subscribe so you can catch the next one. See you soon.